Hello students, welcome to AriserTalent. Today we are going to study the topic that is diversity in living organisms. In my previous lecture, I have already told you what does the diversity means. Diversity means variety of what? Living organism means it includes both plants and animals. Okay, so whatever living organisms are there, including all the microscope, plants, animals. So we have a vast variety of those living organisms on the earth. So it's not possible to study all those animals at the same time at the different places. So what happens? These animals here, we can say that these organisms are categorized into different groups, okay, and subgroups to study them easily. Okay, so here we go. In my previous lecture, I have already told you about the taxonomy and nomenclature. Now we are going to study about the classification, how the living organisms are classified into different groups and subgroups. So here we go with the topic, that is classification. So what is classification? Actually, the classification is the arrangement of living organisms into different groups and subgroups on the basis of their similarities, dissimilarities and interrelationship. Clear? So here we go with the answer, that arrangement of living organisms into different groups on the basis of their similarities, dissimilarities and interrelationship. Okay, so what is classification? It's an arrangement of living organisms into different groups on the basis of their similarities, dissimilarities and interrelationship. The animals or plants which have the same kind of features, or the features or characteristics are resemble to each other, are similar to each other, then they are placed in a different group, and if they are they have dissimilarities from each other, then they are placed in another group. Okay, so thus all the living organisms are classified into different groups on the basis of their similarities, dissimilarities and interrelationship. Clear? Again, the classification is of two types: artificial classification and natural classification. Okay, so what is artificial classification? If you talk about artificial classification, what happens in this classification? The living organisms, the classification of the living organism was based on one or two chosen criteria, like their habitats or one or more major habits. Clear? But in the end, it was not successful. Then natural classification was introduced. In this classification, it involves the classification of living organisms into the broad groups on the basis of their large number of characteristics, like it was based on both their similarities and dissimilarities. Clear? So here we go with the topic, that is artificial classification Artificial classification is based on one or more chosen criteria like habitat or one or more habits of organism. Clear? If we talk about artificial classification, then this classification was based on the one or more chosen criteria like habitat or one or more habits of organisms. So, this classification was not successful. Then the another new classification was given, which was natural classification. Next is natural classification. Natural classification. What is natural classification? This system of classification involves what? It involves different criteria like different characteristics of the organism. It is based on the similarities and dissimilarities. So we can say this system of classification involves categorization of organism into broad groups basis on number of characters. It is basis on large number of characters of an organism. What are the characters? Like similarities and dissimilarities. And dissimilarities. Okay, so we can say that natural classification is the system in which an organism was classified into broad groups on the basis of their different characters like similarities and dissimilarities. Okay, so here we can say what were the criteria of the natural classification. Criteria, or we can say that natural classification is based on or we can say criteria of natural classification. Here can we mention also of criteria of natural classification. What was the criteria? What were the features on which the natural classification of an organism was done? So they were whether the cell is prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Okay, this was the first criteria, whether the cell is prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Prokaryotic cell means it does not have well defined nucleus and it does not have membrane bound cell organelles. But if we talk about eukaryotic cell, then the cell which has a well defined nucleus and membrane bound cell organelles, then this is called eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells were categorized into different groups. Okay, so the first criteria of natural classification was to check whether the cell is prokaryotic or eukaryotic. So prokaryotic cell was kept in different group and eukaryotic cells were kept in the different group. Okay, after that the cell occurs, next criteria is cells occur singly or in group, means cluster. Okay, so here if we talk about if the cell occurs singly, as we know amoeba is unicellular, it is made up of single cell. So thus the cell which occurs singly is amoeba. Like amoeba there is euglena, paramecium also. So those animals which are unicellular, which have only one cell, okay, they are known as unicellular. Then they perform all the activities by the single cell only. So amoeba, which is the unicellular organism which occurs singly, that it was kept in the different group. Beside it, if the cells are in group or in cluster, means they are multicellular. So multicellular organisms were kept in the different group. Clear? So here we can mention that single cell like amoeba and multicellular organisms were placed in different groups. Okay, so another criteria to choose the organism for the classification was whether the cell occurs singly, means if the organism is unicellular, or whether the cell occurs in group, whether the animal is or the organism is multicellular. So they were placed in different groups. Clear? After that, the next criteria was organism is photosynthetic whether the organism is photosynthetic or heterotropic, means if they can perform process of photosynthesis, whether they can make their own food or they depend for the food on other organisms or on the environment. So here we can mention organism is photosynthetic or takes food from the environment. Okay, so another criteria for the classification was whether the organism is photosynthetic, means if it make its own process, or is it able to perform the process of photosynthesis or can make its own food or not. So here we can mention that green plants which have chlorophyll, they perform the process of photosynthesis. Okay, and they are known as autotrophic. Okay, beside it, animals they do not have chlorophyll and they depend on others, means they depend on environment for the food. Animals depend on the environment for food. Okay, beside it, the other thing, means the other criteria of the natural classification was body organization of the cell or organism. Organization of body parts. So next criteria was organization of the body parts. This was the another criteria for the natural classification, whether the organism, what kind of organization of the body part is of the organism. Okay, if we talk about the plants, then the plants are differentiated into stem, leaves and roots. But if we talk about the animals, their body is not differentiated into stem, roots and leaves. Thus, plants were categorized into different groups and animals were kept in the different group. Okay, so on the basis of organization of the plant body part, as the plant body, example, plant body is differentiated into different parts like stem, root and leaves. Animal body is not differentiated into stem, root or leaves. Okay, so what were the basic criteria of natural classification? They were: number one, the cell is prokaryotic or eukaryotic, whether the nucleus is well defined or not, or another is cell occurs singly or in group, unicellular and multicellular. Then organism is photosynthetic or takes food from the environment, means it can prepare its own food. If it can prepare its own food, means it is autotrophic. Then it was kept in different group because it contains chlorophyll. And the organisms which cannot perform the process of photosynthesis, they cannot make their own food, then they were kept in the different group, that is heterotrophic, or because they depend on the organism, they depend on other organism or they depend on the environment for their food. Other criteria was organization of the body part, how the body part is, if the body part is differentiated or not. If you talk about the plant body, then plant body is differentiated into stem, leaves and roots. But if we talk about the animal body, then it was not differentiated into stem, leaves or roots. So these were the main criteria on which the natural classification is based on. Clear? Now we will talk about the importance of classification. Clear? Okay, so this was it was all about the type of classification. Means generally classification is of two type, artificial and natural, and we have discussed what are the basic criteria for natural classification. Now we will talk about the importance of classification. Why do we do the classification? What is the importance of this classification? So here we go with the topic, that importance of classification. Why do we need to do the classification of living organism? Because as we all know, there is a vast variety of living organisms on the earth. We cannot study them all in a same time. Okay, so if we divide or we categorize the organisms into different groups, then it helps us to study them in an easy and convenient way. Okay, so first importance is classification makes the study of living organisms makes the study of living organisms easy and convenient. Okay, then it gives idea of diversity of living organisms. Beside it, it provides information about evolution, horizon and evolution, horizon and evolution of organism. Okay, beside it, it provides information about interrelationship. It provides information about interrelationship of or between different categories of organisms. As I told you, what is classification? Classification means arrangement of organisms into different groups on the basis of their similarities, dissimilarities and interrelationship. Okay, so importance of classification is that it makes the study of living organisms easy and convenient. Beside it, it gives idea of diversity of living organisms present on the earth, and it provides information about from where the organism is origin and what the evolution occur, what are the different features which are occurred with time in the organism. Okay, so thus we can say that it provides information about the origin and evolution of organism. Beside it, it provides information about interrelationship between the different categories of the organism. So this is the importance of classification. Clear? Now next we will talk about the hierarchy of classification. If we talk about hierarchy of classification, hierarchy means when we categorize the organism from lowest to highest. Okay, hierarchy means it is a system. It is a system or arrangement to arrange something from lowest to higher group. Okay, same happens with the animals or plants also, that they are classified into different groups on the basis of their different similarities and dissimilarities and interrelationship. So what is the hierarchy of classification here? We will study now. So now we will talk about the hierarchy of the classification. Next topic is hierarchy of classification. What is the hierarchy of classification? Hierarchy means a system or organization Okay, a system of organization that has many levels from lowest to highest. Okay, hierarchy means a system or organization that has many levels from lowest to highest, and hierarchy of classification generally it was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Clear? So here in the case of classification, what is hierarchy? We will discuss it now. If we talk about the lowest to highest, then here we go. If we talk about the lowest, then it starts from species. Okay, if we talk about species, then this is the lowest group of organism. Okay, here we can mention that it is the lowest category. Lowest category, and it is also known as the basic unit of classification. Then above the species, it comes genus. Above the species, it comes genus. Genus is a group of same kind of species. Group of, it is a group of closely resemble species. Okay, and above the genus there is family. Above the genus there is family. This is the another category of classification, means this is the part of hierarchy. Family is the group of almost same kind of genera. Family is the a large group of closely resemble genera. Okay, then if we talk about family, then above the family is order. Order means group of closely resembled families. Group of closely related families of what? Organisms, whether they are plants or animals. And above most of orders means order together, a group of order together make a class. So here we can mention class. What is class? It is a group of related orders. It is a group of related orders. Clear? And different classes together form a phylum or division. In the case of animals, it is known as phylum, a group of animals, okay, a group of different classes of animals, that is known as phylum, and in case of plants, it is known as division. So above the class, which is the group which comes is phylum or division. Phylum or division. Phylum for what? Animals, and division for plants. Okay, so different classes, a group of classes is kept under the category division. Okay, a group of different classes of plants is known as division, and a group of different classes of animals is known as phylum. And above all these, the highest category is kingdom. that is kingdom. This is the highest category of classification. Okay, so as I told you, hierarchy means lowest to highest. So this is kingdom. Kingdom is the highest category of classification. Above it is phylum in the case of animals and in the case of division. Then below the phylum is class, then below the class is order, and below the order is family, and below the family is genus, and below the genus is species. Clear? So everything is clear here. Hope you all got it in a nice manner. Thank you.